when it comes to the current scandal around we want to see that the Prime Minister waive all cabinet confidentiality, that he appear before the Ethics Commission, and that he release all documents, because Canadians need to know the truth of what happened. The problem with what we were asking for is for the Prime Minister to show up in committee, to waive cabinet confidentiality and release all documents. But our concern is that it's not just about the Prime Minister, and it's not limited to the Prime Minister. The Finance Minister is implicated in the scandal because of his family member that benefit from being paid by this organization. There's an implication of the involvement of the Chief of Staff. There's also suggestions that more Liberal Party members are implicated. And so that's why it's so important for the Ethics Commissioner to do his work, for the committee to ask those questions, to get to the details, because it's not just about the Prime Minister. This is something that touches the entire Liberal Party.
The NDP is asking for two things, that cabinet confidentiality be waived, and there's an RCMP investigation. Do you support the Conservative requirement that there be an investigation, and are you wanting cabinet confidentiality to be waived? What are your demands? I don't consider the NDP's ideas to be serious. Well, I think that they have had some quite ignoble behavior over the years. And I must get over the bitterness of this, but I don't consider them major stakeholders at the moment. Inaudible for the interpreter. Microphone, please. Waiving cabinet confidentiality is no small decision. It is easy to ask when you know that you will never be sitting in cabinet. It is no small decision, because once you do this, you create a precedent that could be complex for any state. I have already sat in a council of ministers, and obviously the question, I won't give a firm answer, but how will clarity among ministers, how much clarity will be added to the situation by making these documents public?
The pattern of behavior here is very clear, that the Liberal government, Prime Minister Trudeau, continually seem to be jumping to help out their friends and asking people that are struggling to wait. And this is an example that the more we dig, the more the evidence comes to light that there are some deep concerns about the entire scheme, that this was never about helping students. And the more we dig, the more we see deep concerns about conflict of interest, about inappropriate activities, and the fact that the government encouraged the organization to pay students less than minimum wage. This is something the government did. All these things we would not have known but for great investigative journalism and questions that we've been asking. And so there's other contracts that probably similarly, where the government has helped out their close friends and has not done the right things, like recusing themselves if there's a conflict of interest. This is a case where we've now got evidence of at least two major players, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, who should have recused themselves, and both didn't. How many more cases are there where this happened? We don't know. And that's why getting to the bottom of this will help us perhaps uncover other examples. It's wrong for the government, for the Liberal government, to use its power to help its friends instead of helping people.
I doubt that Parliament, in the current circumstances, can be called back with 338 MPs physically present in the House this fall. But I would not wish, and the Bloc Québécois caucus does not wish to prolong the special circumstances that has allowed the Trudeau government to act in less good faith than what we would hope, and to get around the fact that it is a minority government. So if we want all parliamentarians to get back to a normal parliament as much as possible, including the vote, we need to look at alternatives to physical in-person voting.
Well, we've called for something really specific right now, which is the waiving of cabinet confidentiality, making sure that cabinet confidentiality is waived so that we can hear from cabinet and hear from the evidence that what happened in that decision, how that went down, and did Cabinet know about the connections with the Trudeau family and Prime Minister Trudeau and the organization? We want to make sure that the Prime Minister appears before committee, and finally we want to make sure that all documents are released. If there's evidence that the police services can use for a criminal investigation, they should do so. We're not specifically calling for that, but if there's evidence, they absolutely should. What we're calling for is really a full transparency. We want to know what happened. Canadians want to know what happened and how this could have happened. Something as obvious as family connections to an organization to receive nearly $1 billion contract clearly cries out conflict of interest. Why didn't the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister, for that effect, recuse themselves, step back from that decision, knowing that there's this clearly obvious conflict of interest? These are questions that we need answered so that we can get to the bottom of this and maybe uncover if this has happened in other cases.